So Claude Sonnet 5 just made its appearance on the scene, and this complicates the sort of value models on the frontier. Claude Sonnet 5 is a pretty powerful entry, but there's some caveats here, and I wanted to build this video just to kind of show everyone what we know about Sonnet 5, what my testing is showing. But there's also something else, a second big announcement from Anthropic within a 24-hour period, and that is Fable 5 is making a return. So we're going to get the powerful Mythos model back in action, and it's going to be in your hands here. Actually, right now, it's available to us. But there's, like Sonnet 5, there's a big catch, guys. If you stick around until the end of the video, I'll explain everything about Sonnet 5, whether you should be focusing on this, or maybe if there's a different model or two that would be better for your workflow. And also, I'm going to tell you all about the Fable 5 story. So, yes, you're going to have access to it now, but there is a catch to that. There's definitely a catch. So, Claude Sonnet 5, they put some extra work into it, it sounds like, to make it better at coding and make it good for agent work, right? As you guys may know, agents are the future. Chats are dead. Chatbots, LLMs as chatbots, are dead. That's my controversial statement for the day, but there is a lot of truth in it if you're forward looking, right? So we're still going to be using chatbots and LLMs in a chat interface in the future, but that's only going to be a minor part of it. We're moving more towards agentic frameworks where you're going to have multiple agents going out and doing things for you and reporting back to you. Now, let's look at the pricing for Sonnet 5. It's pretty good. The standard price is about $3 per million input tokens, $15 per million output tokens, which is strong, and we'll compare it to the other models in the coming slides here. But it also has an intro price, which is even cheaper until the end of August. So you've got a little bit of time here. You've got roughly 2 months to utilize that intro price on Sonnet in case you find that it is the best model for you. It has a good speed to capability balance as well, team. So this is being overlooked by a lot of people, but the fact is that Sonnet 5 is pretty capable and pretty fast. So that may put it over the top as your best budget pick, especially if you're looking at speed as a factor. And I definitely am. So I'm curious, and I'm definitely going to be experimenting more with using Sonnet 5 for certain builds. There's other builds where I'm actually going to be using a cheaper frontier model, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. So I also want to put an emphasis on the fact that this is within the context I'm talking about frontier models. If you really want to get even cheaper, you can start looking at other models as well that are not frontier models. Why does Sonnet 5 matter then? We've touched upon this, but basically it's because it's such a budget option for us right now that is still pretty capable and still pretty fast. It's almost as good as Opus 4.8 in a lot of ways, but it's cheaper than that. It's cheaper than GPT 5.5. It's a good, solid, everyday workhorse. But the caveat, and like I was saying, there is a caveat with Sonnet 5 and with how affordable it is that it's not as efficient at complex reasoning or high reasoning tasks. So, what some developers are finding is that Sonnet 5 is still costing them more because if they try to use it for more complex tasks, it takes longer to figure things out because it's not as smart as Opus 4.8, as ChatGPT 5.5, or as Fable 5. So what that means is it's got to work harder, it's got to use more tokens if you're working on something that's really complex. So you'll want to keep that in mind. If you're working on really complex problems, coding flows, workflows, you still may want to look to Opus 4.8, GPT 5.5, maybe even Fable 5, which is now available. And here are some of the competitive prices of 4.8 and GPT 5.5. You could see here on the slide. 5.5 has a little bit higher price per million on the output tokens. Now, GPT 5.4 is also a very good, affordable budget pick, as we'll look at here in a moment. Uh, so, a lot of people still use 5.4, and that's what I'm using on a lot of my work at the moment. Some of that may change with some of these new releases like Sonnet 5, but I still have to test it and see. Here's a little chart. I wasn't able to put Fable 5 on here, but Fable 5 would be sitting right here to the left of GPT 5.5. So it's actually a little bit cheaper than GPT 5.5, um, but it would be slightly above because it's a little bit more powerful than 5.5. Now, we don't have GPT 5.6 on this chart yet either, and that should be coming out shortly. But one thing I wanted to point out on this chart is GPT 5.3 Codex. That's a good budget monster. And you have to use it through the Codex app, but it is very cheap at $1.75 input per million and $14 output per million. And it's pretty capable as well. So it's a good budget pick for certain things, especially when you're prioritizing input tokens. So this kind of shows us, and this is a little bit biased, guys. I don't necessarily agree with this completely. I would put a big question mark here. Is Claude Sonnet 5 the best default budget pick right now for price to performance ratio? I think it's going to be near the top. It does need more testing. I do need to test it more, and I want to see what other people think as well. Peak power, you've got 5.5, Opus 4.8, but also Fable 5 now. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get it on these slides on Fable 5. Except for our last slide. We're going to talk about Fable 5 in the last slide. Another good best budget, like I just mentioned, would be 5.3 Codex, and a balanced alternative, which I've been using a lot, is GPT 5.4. Now, finally, we get to the Fable 5 story, and this is really important because Fable 5 may be the best model we have access to now, and we can now get back in there. Anthropic finally opened it back up to us after the government um, basically said it's okay to release it to the public again. But like I was saying, there's a big catch here, guys. And the catch is we only get to use it for 6 days through our subscription models, right? So if you have a Claude subscription, you only get to use it until July 7th. After that, you're going to have to use usage credits to use it, which means you have to provide, of course, you're providing your credit card and they are billing you per token or per a certain amount of tokens, right? You're going to be getting charged for using it, which is a big bummer for me and for other folks who really like using these powerful models in the chat interface, because it's a really good value, especially with Fable 5. So we have 6 days. There's another problem, though. And that other problem is that after those 6 days, I mean, during those 6 days, we only have 50% usage, right? So they're capping us at 50% of our weekly usage, I should say. 50% of our weekly usage on Fable 5. So we're going to have access to it through subscriptions for 6 more days from the time of recording here, and it is currently July 1st, 2026. So we're going to be able to use it just for a short window here, guys. Less than a week, we'll have Fable 5. Then after that, we're going to have to use usage credits, which means, if you're building stuff, if you're using things like Claude Code, yeah, you could just pay to continue using it. but obviously it's a little bit pricey. I mean, it's probably one of the pricier models, if not the priciest model right now. And there is a little bit of good news, a little bit of a silver lining in that Anthropic said eventually they're going to bring Fable 5 back to subscription models. So we will get it back again. And why is Anthropic doing this, right? Part of the reason is because they're having issues with their compute, and this is just using up too much compute. So it's almost like the fact that Fable 5 was taken down was good for them in a way. And I don't want to get too deep into the politics or the, the whatever else is going on in the company, but they've been having issues with compute for a while now. And if you compare it to any other model like ChatGPT or even Gemini, which I think Gemini is pretty underrated. It's not quite on the level of these top dogs, but it is very underrated in my opinion. And they never have compute usage issues. So with Anthropic, all the time, like when I'm using it with my subscription, it'll tell me you've run out of usage for the day, right? And you guys have probably seen in one of my past videos where I ran out of usage while I was showing you something. So my suspicion is that we are going to get Fable 5 back, but that's going to be when they've built up more compute at Anthropic and when there's even better models coming out. So uh, part of my concern here is, at least through Anthropic, because we haven't seen this through OpenAI much yet, is Anthropic going to be limiting the top models to the public for the public? So is Anthropic going to be kind of limiting how much access we get to their top models going forward, if not due to compute issues, due to security issues? And I think OpenAI really has an opportunity here to close the gap and to really show its customers that they're going to let us use the top models. They're not going to push us aside, and they're going to give us more access to the premium models, right? Because that's what we all want. And when we get access to these premium models, we're able to do better work. Our businesses will excel at a better rate. And it's just going to be better for the public, for small businesses, for startups, you name it. So I'm keeping a keen eye on that. I want to see, is OpenAI going to indeed, you know, step up here and show us that they're going to take a slightly different route than Anthropic is. And I mean, I love Claude as well. So I'm the type of guy that I'm using all the top models. I don't want to, talk too bad about Anthropic, but I do want to, make my opinion heard. And that is that we want to be able to access Fable 5, not just for 6 days through the subscription model. We want to be using it indefinitely. We want to be able to, and not only that, we want to use these top models when they come out, not 6 months later, not 9 months later, not for just 6 days at 50% usage, right? So these are some of my concerns. I'm still going to be playing with Fable 5 and using it, but I imagine the usage limit is going to be quite harsh. You're not going to be able to get much done per day, but let's give it a shot. I'll let you guys know how it goes. And until next time, guys, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'm Jess. Have a great day.